As my head is going around my life and what's happened so far with the art, I remember it was February 19th, 1999, the first painting sold, because the art was not meant to sell. It was the therapy to work through. It was the first 10 paintings that I thought for sure I could hang in my 400 square foot apartment. I would do a painting and take down a poster, do a painting and take down a poster. I wanted to photograph the art, so I had some photos taken by a photographer and brought them to show my friend Jim McDermott, who worked at a bar here in Houston called JR's. And as I'm showing him the photographs, one of the owners walked by and said, "Why don't you do an art show here? We every so often have an art show." So that was my first exhibit, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm finally an artist with the show. I'm successful as an artist. So those first two paintings that night, that was the beginning. And I remember my rent was $375. My truck was paid for. That money was 3 months of living. And I thought, well, I'll get a little portion of that and buy some more canvases and replace those two. And this was so nice to sell the two paintings, because that was it. It was not going to happen again. And I was working at the bar at the time, so the good thing is I was able to be excited about the art and talk about it when somebody wanted to know about a painting. I think it's so important, and the reason we have the studio kind of set up the way it is, where it has the exhibition space, which is a sleek, clean area, and then you have the studio, because people want to see the creation. How it's done, how it's made, the space it's made in. And I think a traditional gallery is lacking that space where we do create our art in the raw sense of it. I remember thinking, when is this going to end? Because there's no way that I could keep selling art. And I went to my mom and I asked her, so what's going to happen after people quit buying my art? Because at this point in my head, it was people who knew me, people who wanted me to feel supportive in my art, because anybody could buy a painting. They were $50 at the beginning. Not all of them were $50. The first two were expensive. But they were $50. Or $25 if you're a friend. The art kept selling, and I said, what will happen when this stops? She said, John, when your art stops selling, if that is what happens, you will find the next thing to do, which will be even better. That gave me the release of that fear to not keep thinking on it, because we attract those things that we focus on. Even though we don't think, we bring the car wreck or the this to that, or this person in my life. Why do I have this person abusing me in my life? Because we don't have the right self-esteem or whatever, and we attract it to us. And I think it's the universe giving you the opportunity to work through that issue. But what do? We blame the other person. You're bad, and then you go get another one. And you're bad, and we get another one. And then our whole life is not taking responsibility for ourselves. Taking responsibility gives you the control. Otherwise, everybody in your life is controlling your destiny and what you do. So the important thing on that for me was taking the responsibility of my art and knowing if it's what I wanted to do, it will work. Because when my father died, I decided I was going to make my art work no matter what. So I dropped out of college. I did not want the degree to make a living. Both my parents have a college education, and I feel my father, who was my role model in terms of going to school and business and career, struggled his whole life. And I said to myself, I will not struggle. For me, the path was the art, and I had no clue of how it was going to work or be promoted. But I knew, too, we live in a society of capitalism. We live in a society where you have to show people what you've accomplished. If I'm in my garage painting and I have 10 paintings hanging, there's only so much value you're going to be able to give those paintings no matter what your career is or what you've done, because of the environment they're in. So I knew I needed to create a space that was going to heighten the beauty of art. There was a couple of spaces that I had before where we are now at 1218 Heights Boulevard, and there'll be some pictures that rotate through about the house, and some of them are centered around the Heights home tour, which I remember Chris Silkwood, a good friend who's part of the Heights, asked us to be on the tour. I remember thinking, as I was talking to Aaron earlier about the house, oh my God, I cannot believe we're being asked to be on a home tour. You want to look at my 400 square foot apartment? But I guess it's not anymore. But that allows you a vehicle to expand what you're doing. Always think of this correlation I've heard before. If you want to win the race and you've trained for it and you've meditated and you've visualized winning and you're hanging around all the people who all they do is win the race, and there's two cars, yours and the other one, and they're in a Ferrari and you're in a Volkswagen Bug, no planning, no meditation, no visualizing is going to work because you're in the wrong vehicle. You have to be up here, right? But you've got to be in a vehicle that can speed you through. The confusion, I think, on me, or the way people view me, is that I'm a good marketer, and it's about, you know, being commercial and placing the art. You have to compete today. If you're an artist that has never placed work, or not in good collections, or doing things that I think will make the world better, as I hope the mentoring artist program, the Escapist that I do, if you don't have those things, people will not listen to you. The balance of that is to have those things for the right reason and not be attached to this, and this. Those are things that I think you'll have in your life as long as you don't need them, because if you need them, they become burdens. You get one ding on that car door and you hate the car, and God forbid it's leased and you couldn't afford it. Because you bring it back with a ding, well, that's going to be $1,200 on the lease. I had a lease, I know. But that's, again, people having it for the wrong reason. And I want to have those nice things too, but I want to have them when the time's right, and I want to have them for the right reasons. And I want to have a beautiful, nice car because I've worked hard. So the art is evolving. The career is its own machine now. I think we have ideas. We're one person and other people have ideas. Example of us being here in the studio today. But when those two entities come together, that's the genius. So what's exciting now is working here, and then Ryan, Lindsay, my partner, coming onto the art business, and then what he and I are creating, because you create a third entity. Ryan, John, and then Ryan and John. Me, and David and Aaron, and then all of us are, it's its own being now.
Oh, yep. David, I'm recording.
You are?
Yay, isn't that exciting?
So what's exciting as this is going on are the opportunities of being in Art Chicago this year, Art Toronto. I know the more art that is placed, or the more events we're in, the more people will be exposed to the art. 2010 is going to be a very exciting year for the art movement, or my movement of escapism.
Okay.
So enjoy the videos.
Hi, John. I've never shot a video with this camera before.
Congratulations on figuring it out.
Thank you. I feel brilliant.
Are you going to copy what we're doing? About 3 years ago, the original studio was 2 homes, 722, 726, West 17th, and then behind one of them, I built a studio. So there were 3 buildings. It just kind of grew on its own. Life's about growing on its own, hopefully, just letting it be. And there was a point where I said, well, the neighborhood of, or the part of the Heights I was in is not really where I want to be. People going from this house to this house to this house for events could get complicated. And I would be like, oh, did I leave my pen in the red house? And oh my God, in summertime in Houston, you'd rather die. Put all that on the market. 2 days, the red house sold, which was on 3 lots. We totally redid it. And then the 722, the original house, the very first house I bought, sold in 31 days. It was $155,000, which, oh my God, you know, my parents' house was $30,000 or whatever. And at closing, the roof on the house was not constructed right. It was really obvious. It was almost like, where the shingle should hang off a little bit. It was really bad. I got a check outside of the actual closing, a cashier's check for $3,000 to put a new roof on. The $3,000 was my mortgage payment for the first 2 months I lived there. I cleaned out an IRA, which I was so proud of myself. I was 24, I had $9,000 in an IRA. I was so proud. Emptied that out totally to do the down payment on the house. My rent was, the second apartment was a $700 rent. Oh my gosh, luxury. And I went to the house, which was $1,100. I was mortified of that mortgage. In the past, when I couldn't pay my apartment rent the first time, I just moved back home. Can't do that. And then I wanted to build a studio in the back, and the lender told me that would be no problem. We can build the studio, buy the house, and in a month we'll apply for a loan. Well, that didn't get approved. And I remember being in that little bungalow thinking I have to do something because this is not what I thought it was going to be. So that was the idea that Aaron, we talked about one time, I don't know if that was on one of the videos, about the collector's wall. I'm here with Aaron and David again, so I might refer to them. Just imagine these two people. And the collector's wall, and so anybody who bought a painting between the time I decided to have that concept and the studio was built, they would have their name on this granite wall. The first party I had that event, I got a big sheet of butcher paper from Texas Art Supply, rolled it down over a window and said, buy a painting, get your name on the wall, and Lynn Dickens, first person on there. And so it worked. And so that was the concept of not just selling work, but also of honoring the people that help the work sell by purchasing and collecting it. So after that was all sold, we found the property on 1218 Heights Boulevard. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow. Over a year into it, we had the drawings permitted by the city. So that means the drawings were done, the city had approved everything. We go to get it bidded out. It was over double what our budget was. And Ryan said we cannot sell that property, we have to live there. I'm like, Ryan, it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It's in horrible condition. It's not livable the way it is. Within a week, the amazing Chris Silkwood in my life introduced me to Sam Giannoukas. It was a Sunday, and I remember not wanting to meet somebody on Sunday. We went through this meeting about what I was looking for, and I said, Sam, just how much will this cost for you to design it for me? Because I could not spend any more money. I had spent the mortgage, the taxes, this architect. At the end of the thing, the architect's like, you still owe me $9,000 when I should have sued. And guess what? I paid him all that $9,000. I paid him $500 a month until it was paid off, just to honor the situation that I was taking responsibility in. Because it is just money, and as stupid as that sounds, it hasn't affected me to date that I paid that money off, except in a good way. I fulfilled my end of the obligation. Meet with Sam, he said, I'll have drawings ready to permit with the city in 30 days, and it will not cost you a dime for the drawings. Just do a painting for me, and we'll call it even. And let me step back just for 1 second. Go back to 722 West 17th. When I built that studio, the building was built 3 feet off of my property onto city property. There was one credit card I got where they sent me the credit card, and it was a $15,000 limit, so I got $15,000 cash advance on it. And they said, you don't have to make the payment for 2 months, so I didn't. So what happens? Since it's at the limit, they were charging you interest for those 2 months. So when I finally got the statement, I owed them like $16,000 because all the penalties of not pay the penalties of going over the limit, and then the interest rate went to like 29% on that one card. I had like 8 of them. I remember having them all lined out, and I always paid it on time. The only reason my credit score went down during that time is because they said I had too much revolving credit card debt. Out there for like 4 days. I'm like, why is he still out there? It usually takes a day. Being at home that evening, I was on the phone with my sister Charlotte, and the surveyor's at the front door, and he says, I think all he said was, you're 3 feet onto city property. I'm sure he said a couple other things. And it was like, no way, there's no way. I had a builder do it, we had a survey, I thought. 3 feet onto city property. So can't refinance. Now the city knows about it. I called the city. What should I do? Well, we're tearing it down. You had no permission to do this. So that was my first interaction with the city. We're tearing it down. 2 years later, this has never happened before, the city said. Had to go in front of city council in Houston twice and the mayor. I got to buy the land from the city of Houston. So they allowed me to buy my $6,000 piece of land for the studio. Aaron was saying, Aaron Coleman, one of the people helping in their studio today, that the theme is the healing. And I think it's important, as he was saying, and I agree, to always go back, because that is why I started painting. That is the reason I paint today. The issue, you hire somebody, an architect, to do a design for you, and it's way off. You lose all the money. You can go after that person in a litigation, suing and all that, instead of going after somebody and hopefully you win, hopefully you get the money. Or let me go create 10 new paintings during that time period and let me heal myself. This tiny little thing becomes a passion just to win in our own heads, our ego. We want to win. Somebody cuts us off on the road, well then we're gonna cut them off or flip them off so we're the winner. And they come back and they have a gun and we're dead. Crazy, I know we're all laughing thinking that's so funny, but things like that happen. To be the one in that car that doesn't react, that is the person who is smart. That is the person that's evolved. That is the person that has strength. It's okay if it works out, but that's not what the art's about. But it's about seeing it in your space. The art to be something that brings you joy when you see it, because it will be something you see every day. It's in your home. People always say, don't buy a man a tie. Well, you might wear that tie once a year. Imagine buying somebody a painting. I mean, it is your home, the art.